of Chodesh Teves, we Be'ezras Mizbarach are continuing at the bottom of Ayin Ches Amud Beis of Maseches Pesachim, almost towards the end of the 7th parak, and continuing on to Ayin Tes Amud Aleph, which is our Amud for today. The Gemara had told us we were having a discussion with regards to a number of different machlokes, potential machlokes between Reb Nosson and the Rabbanon, in trying to figure out whether these mishnayos and these prices were all unanimous. And so we'll start from Ayin Ches Amud Beis, say 5 lines up from the bottom of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up. The Brisa told us, well, the Gemara quotes the Brisa, "Mein Tana lahu, the Tana Rabbanan." Who exactly is the Tana of this Brisa that says, "Shachtei b'tahara"? If you shechted the korban b'tahara, v'achar kach nitmu b'alim, and then thereafter the balim became tamei, yisuk adam b'tahara, then the dam should be thrown in the mizbech b'tahara, meaning that kahanim b'tahara should put it on the mizbech. V'al yochel basa b'tuma. But don't eat the meat. Don't eat the meat. Come on, whose opinion is this? This was taught as machlokes, and this is obviously the opinion of Reb Nosson, who holds that the eating of the basar is not ma'akev with Karban Pesach. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees. He says, maybe you could say that this is the opinion of the Rabbanan. What are we talking about here? But tzibur, that this whole thing is talking about a din that happened in the tzibur. The majority of the people became tameh between the shchitas hakarban and the zrikas adam. How would that happen? What that would mean is if everybody is in the Beis Hamikdash, and 1, 2, 3, they shech the Karban Pesach, and then basically somebody dropped dead, and everybody touched them, or whatever the case might be, something of that nature. That in such a case, you'd be able to do this all in a state of tumah. Now, obviously, this is not a practical situation. It's a framework for the question of trying to understand at exactly what point in time the machlokes might exist. That they would check they would do zrikas adam even in a state of tumah. Says the Gemara. Okay, fine. If this is true, that this is all happening in with regards to tzibur, so then why don't you tell me that you can have the basar eaten in a state of tumah? If everybody's tameh, let them eat betumah. After all, didn't the Mishnah tell us that the Pesach could be offered betumah and could also be eaten betumah? Says the Gemara, Gzeira. This was a din midrabanan, that the Rabbanan instituted that they should not eat it. In this case, because lest it happen that the balim became tameh after zrika. V'yomer, they would say, last year we were not tameh we weren't tameh ve'achalnu, and we ate it. We can eat it as well. Meaning, we weren't tameh at the point in time of shechita, then we became tameh afterwards, and we ate it. So hashtanami nechol, here also we could eat it. V'layadi, and they won't pay attention to the fact that the ishtakid ki is drik dam balam tameim havu, and they won't pay attention to the fact that last year they already became tameh between shchita and before zrikas adam. That's the operative word here, that they became tameh before the zrikas adam. But hash the balim tarim, the balim tahar havu. Turning on to Ayin Tes Amud Aleph, this year the balim tahar, and therefore this could also be the opinion of the Rabbanan, and then this would all be a din midrabanan. In support of Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara v'ibai same. Alternatively, you could answer this whole sugya as follows: that Rav the Amar Rabbi Yeshua, that this whole discussion is happening not according to Reb Nosson, but according to Rabbi Yeshua. Says Rashi, by same Rav the Amar im Zarek Hurtza, that how could it be that if you threw the blood on the mizbech, you were yotz the mitzvah, meaning there's ritzui. Means it worked. Bidi Evid. Maybe that's the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. The Tanya, because we have a brisa that says Rabbi Yeshua tells us, "Kol azachish bein shinit mabasar v'chilev kaim bein shinit machilev v'basar kaim zarik esadam." Rabbi Yeshua says all of the zachim in the Torah, whether the basar became tameh and the chilev that which is burnt on the mizbech, is still good. Ben shenit mechelev, or if the chelev became tamei, the basar is still good to be eaten. Zarek Adam, you can sprinkle the blood on the mizbech. That's all good. But nazir, what about a nazir? Rashi points out, yeah, Shalmei Nazir, with regards to the Shalmei Nazir, Tchilas and Achila, those are all about eating, it says Rashi. Ve'oisa Pesach, and a person bringing a Korban Pesach, Nit machelev basar kaim, in the case where the chelev became tamei and the basar is still there, zarek sadam, you can throw the blood on the mizbech. Nit ma basar, but if the basar became tamei, vechelev kaim, and there's still the fats that could go on the mizbech, ein zarek sadam, don't put the dam in the mizbech, because he holds that without the achila you shouldn't bring the korban. Ve'im zarek, but if you did throw the blood on the mizbech, it works, and you yotz the mitzvah. Nidmu habalim b'meis, what happens if the owners became tamei meis? Lo yizruk, don't put the blood on the mizbech. Ve'im zarek lo yurtza, and in that case it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because, and this is what we mentioned yesterday, according to Reb Nosson and according to Reb Yeshua, there's what to discuss what exactly their opinions are. Are they almost identical? Are they exactly identical? Is the Maseches that Acharim deal with this question? But both Rabbi Yeshua and Reb Nosson agree that you need fundamentally to have a balim that could eat the Korban Pesach. If they did it for some other extraneous reason, but they could fundamentally eat it, then it'll still work. But if the balim with tamei meis, meaning assuming that these balim are the only balim that are tamei meis, and as we'll see a little later, not that the majority of the tzibur was tamei meis, then lo yishuk as adam, you don't throw the blood on the mizbech. V'im zarek lo yihutz, and if you did it, you're not going to be yotze b'diavad in such a case. Okay. Then the Mishnah continued. The Brisa continued. B'mugdashim. This is the Mishnah. Sorry. B'mugdashim ain't okay. That with regards to other korbanos, this is not the din. This is not the din. Says the Gemara, Masnisimani, whose opinion is this Mishnah? Says the Gemara, no problem. Rabbi Yeshua, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, the Tanya, because the Brisa tells us, Rabbi Yeshua says, all of the korbanos in the Torah, shenishtar mehem kazayis basar, that there's at least an olive's worth of basar, or kazayis chelev, or an olive's worth of fat, meaning the forbidden fats, the fats are forbidden to eat. That's called the chelev, that goes in the mizbech. The shuman, which is the part that is mutter, that is eaten by the bala. But the kazayis chelev that gets thrown in the mizbech. Zarek hasadam, you do zarek hasadam, good, as long as there is a kazayis of basar or a kazayis of chelev. You do shirkas adam. Kachatzi zayis basar, kachatzi zayis chelev. If there's only half of a kazayis, meaning shira achila of meat that the balam could eat, and half of a zayis of chelev, in shirkas adam you don't do shirkas adam. Uvaola, with regards to an oil which is all burnt up, I feel kachatzi zayis basar, kachatzi zayis chelev, shirkas adam. In that case, even though there's it's only a chatzi chelev zayis. Chatzi zayis chelev and chatzi zayis basar. Since all of it is going to the mizbeach, says the Gemara, you still do shirkas adam. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, because all of it goes to the mizbeach, and there's no difference between chelev and basar. All of it gets put on the mizbeach. And then says the Brisa, says something interesting. Uva mincha, and with regards to a mincha, which is flour, even though it is all there, don't do shirkas adam. Huh? Says the Gemara, mincha may avita. Why are you talking about a mincha? Since when do you have a mincha that has blood with it? Mincha is flour. Amar Papa says, Papa, minchas nesachim. We are talking about the mincha of the nesachim that goes with the libation, with the wine. And that mincha was brought together with the korban. Meaning, there's the basar, and then there's the ayin, and then there's the mincha. And there's a shirkas adam for this korban that the mincha goes with. I might have thought keva and deka ashim mikach zevach, since the only reason that's coming is because you bring a korban kukufit the zevach tami, that it's considered to be exactly like the korban itself. Kamash malan, that is not the case. Meaning, over mincha, with regards to the mincha, even though it's all there, meaning the entirety of the mincha is there, you still don't do shirkas adam of the korban if there isn't basar and or chelev of that korban. Says the Gemara, 3 lines up from where the lines get very wide. Second word on the line, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shmuel, says Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. Matu ba umatu ba mishum Rabbi Shua ben Chananya. And they learned it from the din of Rabbi Shua ben Chananya. The Amar, the pasuk says, "V'ktira chelev l'reach nichach la'Hashem," that you should bring the chelev, you should bring the fats as a pleasant smell for Hashem. Chelev aval b'shein basar. That sounds like a dead giveaway. That's the drasha here. That chelev, you should bring the chelev even though there's no basar. Says the Gemara. Okay, good. Ashkechan chelev. We know that this is true about chelev. That if there's chelev around, good. You can do shikaz adam. Yoseres hakaved u'shtei kloyos. What about the other parts that are put in the Mizrach? The Yoseres hakaved is the part that's above the liver. That's the lobe that is above the liver, and the shtei kloyos are the two kidneys. Minan, how do you know that you would do shikaz adam if that's all that's left? There's no basar, there's no chelev, there's just the organs. So where do we say that we are going to sprinkle the blood? From the fact that Rabbi Yeshua says in the Spraisa, Uvemincha, with regards to the mincha, even though the whole mincha is there, lo yizak, don't throw the blood on the mizbech. Mincha he delay, that it's if you don't have a mincha. But if you have the Yisaras HaKaved and the Shtei Kloyos, Shabi Dami, this is good. Meaning this works well. You'd be able to do it. It says the Gemara. Okay, good. So then, Minolon, how do you know that din is true? We know that Rabbi Yeshua is learning it in this Brisa, but where does that din come from? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan didei Amar. Rabbi Yochanan said his own drasha. So Rabbi Yochanan was the first generation Amara, and he learned drashas, like the Tanaim learned the drashas. Amakra, the pasuk says, L'reach nichayach, it should be a pleasant smell. Anything that you can put in the mizbech that is going to create a pleasant smell, that will enable shikaz hadam. And the pasuk needs to tell you chelev explicitly, and it also needs to have the much more inclusive phrase of reach nichach, of a pleasant smell. Chelev, obviously. Reach nichach is much more expensive. Anything that creates a pleasant smell. The ikas of Rachman chelev, because the Torah would only have told me chelev hava min chelev in yoseres hakaved ushtei kloyos loy. Then I would say it's only true about the chelev. But if the lobe of the liver and the two kidneys are around, then that's not good enough. Because of Rachman, therefore the pasuk has to tell you lereach nichach, anything that's a good and pleasant aroma. Because of Rachman lereach nichach, if the Torah would only have told me the pasuk reach nichach, that it should be a pleasant aroma. Hava amina, I would have said kol ha'olel reach nichach, everything that creates a pleasant aroma, even if it is just the mincha, if it is just the flower offering. Because of Rachman chelev, therefore the Torah has to tell me chelev. There's two psukim here. So the pasuk number one that says chelev tells me chelev, good. Is that the only thing? No. Anything that's reach nichach. Okay, good. So just leave it as reach nichach. No, because it's coming to tell me that reach nichach has to be things that are domin to the chelev. This is effectively how he's learning. Meaning, you have a prat and then a klal, more or less. That would seem to be the limit that Rabbi Yochanan is saying here, and therefore that would include the organs and exclude the mincha. Good. Says the Mishnah as follows: Nitma kahal. So this is dinim that we have seen in many different applications over the last two prakim. So Nitma kahal. What happens if the entirety of the kehillah became tameh? Or rubai, or the majority, or the kahanim were tameh. The kahal taharim. The people, the rest of the tzibur are tahar. Yasa b'tuma, you should bring the korban pesach in a state of tuma. Nitma miyah takal, but if the minority of the community became tameh, taharim oisim esarishan. In that case, the taharim, the people that are still tahar, they make the first pesach by 14th of Nisan. Tameim oisim esashini, and those that are tameh by the first round, they have a month to get tahar from that tuma, and then they would bring it on the 14th of Iyar. That's Pesach Sheni. It says the Gemara as follows: Tanu Rabbanan, we have a brayso that says Shahari Yisrael Tameim. If you have Shahari Yisrael Tameim, you have a situation that Klal Yisrael is Tameh, but Kahanim Kli Sharis Tarim. But the Kahanim and the Kli Sharis, meaning the vessels that are used in the Mesa Mikdash, those are all tahar. So all of the priests and all of their equipment is all tahar. That's option number one. Case number one of the brayso. Or alternatively, the entirety of the Jewish people is starved with Kahanim and Kli Sharis Tamim. The Kahanim and the Kli Sharis, the vessels that they're all going to be tamim. And in addition, we're going to have a third case here. Even if Yisrael, all of Klal Yisrael, and all of the Ganim, everybody is tahar. Kli sharis tamei, but the kli sharis is tamei. Yasa b'tumah. You bring the korban pesach in a state of tumah. She'ein korban tzibur chaluk, because with regards to the public korbanos, we don't divide things up. What exactly does it mean that we don't divide things up? No, not yet in Rashi. Okay, we'll get to the Rashi in a minute. Meaning, the svara of the Brisa is she'ein korban tzibur chaluk. Once you have a majority of people that are bringing a state of tumah, everybody brings in a state of tumah, even if they themselves are tahar. Meaning, you don't have to be concerned that the knife that they have is tameh. You don't have to be worried about that, since everybody's bringing this in the case of tumah. That is okay. Amar Rav Chisda says, "Yeah, what's the real concern here? Just that the knife is tameh satayvla. No, this is a knife that is tameh b'tmei meis. How do you have what does it mean, a sucking that's tameh b'tmei meis, a knife that became tameh through a dead body? So the Torah tells us bechalal cherev that the din is by the Gula Klei Midian that anybody that came in contact with a sword that killed. So does it mean actually killed or came in contact with their body? Okay, it's machlokes. Bechalal cherev, with a knife that killed or that came in contact with a dead body. Cherev harei kechala. That is the unique din in Tumah Tahara that we saw all the way in the first parak, the sugyas of Rav Chanan Eskana Kahanim, that chalal cherev the knife will take on the level of tumah of the aviyavos tumah of the dead body itself, meaning it doesn't drop down a level. So cherev harei kechala v'kamet tameh legabra, and it will therefore it'll be potent enough in its tumah to transfer the tumah to a person. Demi ki misaved, because at the beginning, when the korban is brought, meaning when the shechted, but tumas haguf the karis ka misaved, it is sacrificed in a state of tumas haguf, which were not to be that everybody was in the situation, it would be an isakaris. Aval nitma sagme tameh, it would be tumas sheretz. But if the sakin, if the knife became tameh in a state with tumas sheretz, came in contact with a creepy crawly, the basar who the metamile, that only the korban could become tameh, but the person could not become tameh. It's not potent enough to be metameh the person that shechted the korban, meaning only the animal is going to become tameh as a result. Says the Gemara from Rav Chisda, taharim avid, those that are tahar would be able to shecht and to bring the korban, even though they're going to make the korban tameh, but through the knife being tameh with sheretz, since they don't have any other options. This is the majority. But tameim lo'avid, people that are tameh, people that have tumas meis, should not be allowed to bring the or tumas sheretz even, should not be able to bring the korban. Why? Mutar b'yachad b'tumas basar b'lav, because it's better if we're going to say that everybody's tameh and therefore they can do it. There is a fundamental difference, says Rav Chisda, between the tumas basar b'lav, that eating the basar that is tameh, that we are suspending this lav, which is a biblical prohibition, but meaning one of the 365 negative prohibitions, negative commandments in the Torah, is not to eat the basar when the basar is tameh. But this is very different from va'al yochel basar b'tumas haguf. But we should not allow people that have tumas haguf, that are tameh themselves, to eat from the korban shu b'karis, because that would be an esakaris. What does that mean? Alma, says the Gemara, Rav Chisda holds that tumah dechuya that the tumah is dechuya, meaning, what's the fundamental difference between tumah hudra b'tzibur and tumah dechuya b'tzibur? So we saw the tzitz is one big nafka. How much do you need the tzitz? But it's also, are we going to try to avoid tumah? If you say tumah hudra b'tzibur, so then why bother avoiding it? It's all mutter. It's literally heter gomer. Everybody can partake. But if you say tumah that the tumah is suspended, but it's still there, so then we try to mitigate the tumah as much as possible by minimizing the allowances. V'chein Amar Rav Yitzchak, and so Rav Yitzchak said, Tum Dechuy B'tzibur, that the Tum is not Hudrin the Tzibur, it's Dechuy B'tzibur. V'Rava Amar Rava said, Afilu Tmeim Nami Avdi, that even the people that are Tamei are also allowed to bring their Karban. My time, and what's the reason? The pasuk says, the basar that comes in contact, meat that comes in contact with anything tamei should not be eaten. Ba'ishi sarif, you have to burn it in fire. Basar, and that pasuk says basar means kol tar yachal basar. And with regards to the basar, anybody that's tar is allowed to eat the meat. Kol heicha delay karin vehabasar. At any time that we don't have this pasuk of vehabasar, that the meat that comes in contact with something tamei lo yachal shouldn't be eaten. Anytime that you don't have that pasuk, you also don't have the din of kol tahar yachal basar, that everybody that's tar has to eat it. Kol heicha de karinin bei v'habasar sheyiga b'chol tamei lo yachal karinin bei v'habasar kol tar yachal basar. Meaning, wherever you don't have a situation where you're going to invoke the pasuk that any of the meat that touches anything tamei shouldn't be eaten, in all of those cases, lo yachel karinim bei, we also don't have the issur of lo yachel, meaning v'abasar kol tar yachel basar, and the obligation that everybody that's tar should eat it. Meaning, effectively, says Rava, what we see from the psukim, from these two psukim, is that if everybody is tamei in whatever way they are tamei, then everybody brings the karban, regardless of what kind of tumah we are talking about. Now we have an interesting discussion that the Gemara is going to have here. What's the discussion? Says the Gemara Itmar. We have a debate as follows. You have a situation where half of the Jewish people is tar. 50% of the Jewish people is tar. And half of the Jewish people is tamei. How are you going to figure out what exactly this din is? Mechza. You have a census and you count exactly. It turns out to be pumped exactly 50% of the Jewish people on the nose are tamei and tar. So obviously this is not a metziistic question. I mean, obviously, in theory, it could be, but unlikely that this ever came up halach l'maisa. But in such a case, Rav says, mechza karayv, that we assume that 50-50 is like a majority. Well, in which way? We'll see. Rav Kahana disagrees. He says, no, mechza in karayv, that the half and half is not considered to be a majority. Rav says half and half is like the majority. Meaning, these ones are going to shecht for themselves. These ones are going to shecht for themselves, meaning everybody is a majority. Both sides are a majority. 50% is a majority. So you have the majority of people that are tar and the majority of people that are tamei. Means everybody brings the karban, Pesach Rishon. Rav Kahana says, it's not a majority. Neither of them are a majority. Taharim Aisim is Harishan. The first, the people that are tar should bring the karban Pesach at the beginning because they should. Tmeim Aisim is Hasheni, and the Tmeim should bring karban Pesach by the second. Meaning both of them are in the minority. So you have the minority people that are going to bring karban Pesach at the beginning, Pesach Rishon, and you have a minority people that are bringing Pesach Sheni. There are those that said, Amar Rav Kahana said, Mechza in Karayv. That half and half is not like a majority. There's no majority. Tarim Osim is Harishon, the people that are Tahar bring the Karban Pesach at the beginning. Utmim ein Osim lo Harishon lo Sheni, and those that are Tamei shouldn't bring not Pesach Rishon, not Pesach Sheni. Whoa! This is Ein Tes Amud base at the top of the page. What is such? It didn't come from Sheni. But recently, the second group shouldn't bring, the Tamei group shouldn't bring Karban Pesach at the beginning. Why? They don't have a rule because there isn't a majority of people that are Tamei. B'Sheni, and they shouldn't bring it. The second time around by Pesach Sheni, delay have because they're also not the minority, meaning they're neither the majority nor the minority. It's just a half. So if you're not the majority and you're not the minority, then you don't have either din. You can't bring Pesach Rishon, you can't bring Pesach Sheni. And we will continue with the shadow that the Gemara has with Tanan Nitma Kahal. We will continue that by tomorrow. Everybody should have a wonderful rest of your evening. And a freilichen Maseches. We'll see you later.